You may view this presentation in 6 different ways: as a GMC Ford comparison for all states except California, or GMC and Ford for California, or GMC versus Dodge everywhere but in California, or in California. You can view the GMC portions only without any comparison, or you can look at everything we've included, all comparisons, all states. I suggest you pick one comparison that interests you. GMC and Ford, for example, for either California or the other states, depending on where you live. To direct the computer in the video disc player, use this touchpad and this special index. You select the presentation you want. Let's take GMC and Ford for California. You take the index number at the head, 125, and enter it here on the touchpad by pushing the number buttons in the right sequence. 125 would be 1, then 2, then 5. Now push the Run Index button and sit back to enjoy your comparison. When you're done with Ford, if you want to see Dodge, then enter the GMC and Dodge comparison index number and press the Run Index button again. The GMC segments will be repeated, but the Dodge portions will be new, and Ford will not be there at all. This is a C1500, 2-wheel drive with 2-door cab and an 8-foot-long steel floor wide side box. It is known in the trade as a half-ton pickup. This is intended to be a measure of how much added weight it can carry in the form of a load. With the standard GVW rating, this truck can carry 1,292 pounds of passengers, added equipment, and cargo. With the maximum available GVW rating, this capacity is increased to 2,353 pounds. Standard fuel capacity is 16 gallons. Adding an optional tank increases total fuel capacity to 32 gallons.
This is an F-150, 2-wheel drive, with the smaller 2-door cab and an 8-foot style side pickup box. Compared with the GMC C1500, this Ford is 3 1/2 inches shorter on a 1.5 inch longer wheelbase. The standard payload capacity of this Ford is 88 pounds less than the GMC, and the maximum optional payload capacity is 633 pounds less than the maximum payload of the C1500. But Ford also has a higher rated and more expensive version of its half-ton model called the F-150. The F-150 has a higher standard and maximum available payload rating than the C1500. The standard fuel tank capacity for either the F-100 or 150 is 1 gallon less than GMC. The optional total capacity is 2 gallons more. The short wheelbase F-100 or 150 is slightly longer than the short wheelbase GMC on a slightly shorter wheelbase. The maximum available payload capacity for the short wheelbase F-100 or 150 is less than the maximum available on the short GMC.
This is the D150, nominally a half-ton, with a smaller 2-door cab and an 8-foot swept-line pickup box. It's a 2-wheel drive. The D150 is an inch shorter than the GMC C1500 on a half-inch shorter wheelbase. The standard payload capacity is 38 pounds more than the GMC. The maximum available payload capacity is 73 pounds less than the maximum payload of the C1500. The standard fuel tank is the same size as the GMC. The optional total fuel capacity is 6 gallons less than the GMC. The short wheelbase D150 is an inch shorter than the short C1500 on a 2.5 inch shorter wheelbase. Both standard and maximum available payload capacities are less than the short wheelbase GMC.
The standard power team for the GMC C1500 is a straight-six gas engine with a manual 3-speed transmission. This powertrain offers an EPA estimated MPG of 19 and an estimated highway of 26. This gives the C1500 an estimated range of 608 and an estimated highway range of 832 miles. The engine has an SAE net horsepower rating of 120 at 3,600 RPM. In addition to the standard 4.1-liter 6, 2 other engines are available, a 5.0-liter gas V8 and a 6.2-liter diesel V8. With the standard 6, optional transmissions are available, a 4-speed manual, a 4-speed manual with overdrive in short wheelbase Super Saver models, and a 3-speed automatic. An automatic 4-speed with overdrive is available with either the optional gas V8 or the diesel V8.
Ford's F-150 standard power team is the 3.8-liter V6 gas engine with a manual 3-speed transmission. The engine is 18 cubic inches smaller than the GMC 6 and develops less SAE net horsepower and torque. For the F-150, Ford uses a larger straight 6. It still produces less SAE net horsepower than the 6 used in the GMC, although it has the same EPA estimated MPG rating of 19 and estimated highway of 26, as does the GMC 6. A 3-speed manual is standard with both Ford engines. A 4-speed manual with overdrive is available with the smaller 6 and with the larger 6 in the fuel saver package. A 3-speed automatic is also available. Ford has 2 available gas V8 engines, and there's an available 4-speed automatic with overdrive for the larger one. Ford has no diesel V8 for the pickups.
The Dodge D150 standard powertrain is a straight 6 gas engine with a 4-speed manual overdrive transmission. The 3.7-liter 6 is 25 cubic inches smaller than the GMC 6 and is rated at less SAE net horsepower and torque than the GMC. The Dodge 6 has an EPA estimated MPG of 19 and an estimated highway of 26, the same ratings of the more powerful 6 in the GMC. The Dodge estimated range is also less than the GMC. A manual 4-speed without overdrive and a 3-speed automatic are available with the standard engine. No 4-speed automatic with overdrive is available. A 5.2-liter gas V8 with 2-barrel or 4-barrel carburation is available, but no diesel for pickups.
In California, the standard power team for the GMC C1500 is a straight 6 4.1-liter gas engine with a manual 3-speed transmission. This power team offers an EPA estimated MPG of 15 and an estimated highway of 21. This gives the C1500 an estimated range of 480 and a highway range of 672 miles. The engine has an SAE net horsepower rating of 110 at 3,600 RPM. In addition to the standard 6, 2 other engines are available, a 5.0-liter gas V8 and a 6.2-liter diesel V8. With the standard 6, a 4-speed manual transmission with overdrive is available in the short wheelbase Super Saver model. A 3-speed automatic is also available. A 4-speed automatic with overdrive is available with the V8 gas and the V8 diesel optional engines.
In California, the Ford F-100 and F-150 have the same power team. The 4.9-liter straight 6 gas engine with a 3-speed manual transmission in the fuel saver package. There is also an available 4-speed manual with overdrive in the fuel saver package and an available 3-speed automatic. The standard 6 is rated at lower SAE net horsepower than the GMC 6. A 5.0-liter gas V8 is also available, but only with a 4-speed automatic with overdrive. Ford has no diesel V8 for pickups.
In California, the Dodge D150 standard engine is a straight 6 gas. It is coupled with a 4-speed overdrive manual transmission. The standard 3.7-liter engine is 25 cubic inches smaller than the GMC 6. It is rated at less SAE net horsepower and torque. A 3-speed automatic is available with a standard 6. A 4-barrel 5.2-liter V8 is available with a 4-speed manual or available 3-speed automatic. No diesel engine is offered, and no 4-speed automatic with overdrive is available.
The GMC C1500 engine compartment is large and shows considerable thought in its layout. Much of the wiring is contained in plastic conduit. The brake master cylinder has a see-through fluid reservoir, so the cap does not have to be removed to check the fluid level. The wiper motor is positioned a hand's width from the fender and drives the driver wiper directly. A large plastic shroud helps pull the air through a high-efficiency radiator. The fan has a clutch that thermostatically controls the fan speed to deliver more air only when extra cooling is required. The coolant recovery system is also standard. The voltage regulator is an integral part of the Delcotron electrical generator. The Freedom 2 battery is passenger side mounted for curbside checking. Water never needs to be added. It has the Delco eye, a built-in hydrometer, to indicate the state of the charge, and side post terminals to avoid the corrosion of top post terminals. The jack and tire iron are also curbside mounted, fastened to the steel bathtub-type fender liners.
The Ford F-150 engine compartment is smaller, shorter from front to back than the GMC. Much of the wiring is tape-wrapped. The top of the brake master cylinder fluid reservoir must be removed to check brake fluid levels. The wiper motor is mounted beyond the master cylinder and drives both wipers through a linkage. The bathtub-type fender liners are plastic, not steel, as in GMC. And there are no additional liner-to-frame seals, as on the GMC, to deflect road splash. Fan shrouding is shallower because the fan and the radiator are close to the front. Coolant overflow is routed clear across the engine compartment to reach a double-duty reservoir that also holds a container for windshield washer fluid. The battery has top terminals with conventional top fill. How easy or economical something is to service can sometimes be measured by comparing flat rate times. Flat rates are suggested time allowances for specific services to be performed. Among published flat rate times, Ford requires more time than GMC for the following services. Electronic distributors, R&R, remove and replace, alternator, R&R, starter, R&R, fan belt, R&R, single muffler, R&R, renew catalytic converter, check alignment, check toe-in, full alignment and wheel bearings, front shocks, R&R, test power steering, windshield wiper, R&R.
The Dodge D150 engine compartment is more open on one side than the other because the standard engine is the slant 6, which leans toward the passenger side. Much of the wiring is wrapped in electrical tape and not routed through plastic conduit as on the GMC. The reservoir of the master brake cylinder is opaque, and the tops must be unscrewed to check the fluid level. The wiper motor is mounted back of the air cleaner and drives both wipers by linkage. The wheel housings are steel. Dodge does not have complete inner fender panels like GMC, nor frame-to-wheel housing anti-splash seals. The standard battery is top fill with top terminals, no built-in charge indicator. The voltage regulator is separate from the alternator. Among published flat rate times, suggested time allowances for specific services to be performed, Dodge requires more mechanic time than GMC for the following services. Six-cylinder tune-up with electronic ignition, carburetor adjustment, electronic distributor, R&R, remove and replace, alternator, R&R, fan belt, R&R, single muffler, R&R, renew catalytic converter, check alignment, check toe-in, front shocks, R&R, adjust steering gear, test power steering system, adjust clutch free play, automatic transmission, test, drain, fill, rear shocks, R&R, air conditioning, check and service, windshield wipers, R&R.
The outside air intake on the GMC C1500 has a protective screen inside, in addition to a metal grille over it. The windshield is 1,447 square inches of glass. The inside prismatic day-night mirror is standard, as are left and right-hand side view mirrors. Many portions of the cab are fabricated from two strong steel walls for rigidity: doors, front fenders, rear cab panel, and hood. The door is made from large single-piece panels and is fitted into a single-piece door frame. The front door hinges are heavy stamped steel and hold each door with 6 bolts. Each door contains a louvered vent and a pressure relief valve to exhaust air from the cab even when all the windows are closed. Ram air, or powered ventilation, brings air into the cab through the hood vent and pushes it back outside through the door vents. The exterior drip molding runs over the door opening and down the back to carry off the water. It does not go across the windshield in order not to interrupt the smooth flow of air up and over the cab. The full foam seat in leather grain vinyl is standard. The inertial latch seat back folds forward for access to the inside cab storage area. The back of the seat is trimmed as well as the front of the seat in all trim levels. The seat adjusts 5 inches forward or back. There is 40.5 inches of headroom and 40.8 inches of legroom, with impressive hip room and shoulder room to accommodate 3. Fuses are labeled and easily accessible. The instruments are logical, large, and readable. The steering wheel is comfortable. Car-type design has been used on the instrument panel and the door trim panels. There are 2 optional trim levels available.
The outside air intake on the Ford F-150 has a grille, but no inner protective screen. The windshield is 1,508 square inches, and as on the GMC, works aerodynamically with the streamlining of the hood and fenders to carry air up and over the cab. Double wall construction is used in doors, front fenders, rear cab panel, and hood. Ford has less total glass than GMC. The doors are thinner than the GMC doors and do not have vents or pressure relief valves to exhaust cab air. Each door hinge is fastened to the door frame with 2 bolts. GMC has 3. The door frame itself is not made from a single pre-sized piece, but is welded up from several separate pieces. The drip molding runs over the top of the door, but does not carry the water down the back. The seat back has mechanical latches. And when you fold it forward, you find that the back is not finished. Ford has slightly less headroom than GMC and slightly more legroom. In both cases, the differences are in tenths of an inch. The fuse panel is under the instrument panel and is covered. The instrument panel is car type, with the speedometer a little farther left because of the clock spot in the center of the panel. Ford has a considerable anti-corrosion program, but does not use the Elpo dip on pickup cabs at this time.
The Dodge D150 outside air intake does not have an inner protective screen as GMC does, just the stamped grille bars. The windshield is smaller, about 70% as large as the GMC windshield. And the smooth airflow over it is partly blocked by the Cadet Peak drip molding that runs all the way across the vehicle. Doors and cab rear panel have double wall construction, but not the fenders. The doors do not have louvered vents with pressure relief valves to allow air to exhaust from the cab easily. Dodge uses 5 bolts on the door hinges, 1 less than GMC. The door is hinged to a multi-piece door frame. This type of door frame is fabricated from several separate pieces that are welded together. The seat folds forward for storage access after you first release the mechanical latches. The seat back is not finished. With GMC's inertia latches, the seat back moves freely except during braking or deceleration, when it latches into place automatically. The fuse block is snapped into place up underneath the dash. Although the cab looks large, it has a ½ inch less headroom and almost 3 inches less legroom than GMC. The seat adjustment is also shorter. Dodge does not offer a 3-year perforation from corrosion warranty.
Often, the most important values are the hardest to see. Underneath this GMC C1500 is a lot of thought and a lot of special engineering. To suspend this truck, we removed the front bumper. The front bumper is mounted at 4 points. Each of these bolts to the truck's steel frame. The bumper curves at the ends to protect the front side sheet metal of the pickup. Attached to the lower edge of the bumper is the front air deflector, which is part of the pickup's aerodynamic design to cut down air drag. The GMC front suspension features a massive girder beam crossmember. The steering linkage nestles next to it. Look at the width of the lower suspension arm. From this massive pivot, the formed steel arm runs out to support the wheel. Between the lower suspension arm and the girder beam above it is a short, tough coil spring. Mounted at a forward thrusting angle, from the frame to the lower suspension arm is a hefty shock absorber. Inboard of the steel wheels are low-drag front disc brakes. On them are audible wear sensors to signal when brake pads need replacing. Every brake line has a zinc return coating as an added anti-corrosion measure. Between the steel wheel housing and the frame, and the back of the wheel housing to the cab, there are seals to deflect splash. The standard fuel tank is mounted with a driver's side filler. The long steel leaf springs are mounted where strong frame cross members are attached to the frame rails. The leaf spring is wrapped around an eye, clamped to the axle, and ends at the rear, wrapped around an inverted shackle. As weight bears down on the spring, the top of the shackle is pushed rearward, which tightens and stiffens the spring. In addition, the short second stage leaf spring comes into play under full load. The whole designed for a good ride with light loads and progressively firmer support with heavier loads. Notice the rear shock absorbers, counter-angled, driver side coming from the rear and passenger side coming from the front, to help control brake and power hop. These shocks are also shielded from minor stone damage. The axle has a 3,750-pound capacity. The differential has an 8.5-inch ring gear and a removable plate on the housing that makes it easier to service than the previous design. Inboard of the rear wheels are rear brakes with fin drums to help dissipate brake heat. These brakes adjust themselves automatically every time you back up. On this GMC, both the front and rear brakes are computer selected and matched to the actual GVW rating for this individual pickup. These are some of the important things you hardly ever get to see on a GMC.
Underneath the Ford F-150, you can see that the front bumper is mounted at 2 points, not 4. That it angles back, but does not curve around at the end. Actually, there isn't as much sheet metal here because the Ford wheel is closer to the bumper. If you look at the fender of the Ford, you'll notice that the side marker is up on the belt line because there wasn't room enough near the bumper. With Ford twin I-beam front suspension, the left wheel is attached to a short axle that hinges from the right-hand frame rail. The back of that is a second axle, hinged at the left frame rail and crossing to hold the right wheel. The weight is carried by a coil spring. The axle functions as a long lower control arm, and as the wheel moves up and down, its camber changes, much more than the GMC design. Too much change can create tire scrubbing. Until this year, wheel alignment adjustment of caster and camber on the Ford front suspension were fixed at the factory and not changeable in the field. This year, camber has been made more adjustable. Caster is still fixed. Both of these adjustments can be made on GMC's front suspension. Ford front brakes are also disc. Now, they're not low-drag disc design and are not equipped with the audible wear sensor to indicate when to replace the brake pads. To hold the axles in place, a radius arm extends from each axle back to the truck frame. It also holds the shock absorber. The arm is rubber bushed and constantly pivots up and down as the axle moves. The GMC suspension does not require an added radius arm to hold it in position. Suggested published flat rate time for removing and replacing a Ford radius arm is 1 hour and 48 minutes of mechanic time. Ford wheel housings are plastic. There are no frame-to-housing splash shields, and this area between the housing and the cab is open, not shielded as in GMC. The Ford rear suspension is also a 2-stage leaf spring design, but without counter-angled shocks. Ford uses rear drum brakes, but without the fin drums.
Underneath the Dodge D150, you can see that the front bumper has a 4-point mounting and some curve to protect sheet metal. There is no air deflector, not even a tiny one like Ford. The front suspension uses coil springs with centered shocks. The pivot point for the lower control arm is narrower than the wheel end of the control arm. This is the opposite of GMC's foot-wide pivot that also helps maintain the alignment of the suspension. In order to hold the lower control arm in position, Dodge needs a lower control arm strut that runs from the frame rail back to the arm. GMC does not require this additional part. To remove and replace the bushings in the lower control arm strut requires a suggested flat rate time of 1 hour. Dodge has front disc brakes without the low drag design feature and without the audible wear sensor to signal the need for pad replacement. The wheel housings are steel, but do not have the frame-to-housing extra seals that are on the GMC. The Dodge frame steel has the same yield strength rating as the steel in the GMC frame, but the cross-section, the section modulus, is less. The Dodge rear suspension is also two-stage leaf spring, but the shock position is unique. The shocks are mounted in a spread leg position centered over the rear axle. According to published suggested flat rate time, it takes more time to remove and replace Dodge shocks than the GMC shocks.
The more you get to know this truck, the more you see how special it is. Here is a strong traditional truck, backed by parts warehouses and service facilities from coast to coast. Drive this truck, study this truck, read the literature, put it to work, and it'll earn its keep.